Today's episode of The Overwhelmed Brain is brought to you by GetOutOfTheMess.com, a very low monthly subscription rate and access to very high quality legal services. Contact Asha today, 678-355-8777, or go to GetOutOfTheMess.com. Are you annoyed by affirmations? Are you tired of being told to think positively? Just because your first date was a disaster doesn't mean your second date will be too. I won't be going on a second date. Keep thinking positively and don't even think about what went wrong. Only look at what went right. So I shouldn't learn from my mistakes? You need to read my book, The Tao Day Think Positively. If affirmations feel like lies and positive thinking feels like a straight path to denial, then get ready to start creating the life you've always wanted now. Hello, this is Paul Coliani, personal empowerment coach and host of this show called The Overwhelmed Brain, and this is the personal growth show for the critical thinker. On every episode, we'll talk about practical, down-to-earth steps to help you improve your mood and keep you sane in this powerful journey we call life. I want to help you bridge the gap between your emotions and reason, causing you to discover why you do the things you do and what you can do to reach higher levels of happiness and lower levels of stress and overwhelm. Everything I talk about on this show should not be mistaken for actual medical advice or treatment and is intended to be for informational and educational purposes only. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your medical treatment. What you will find here is an increase in your emotional intelligence, a strengthening of your self-worth and self-esteem, the motivation to be your authentic self, and the forward momentum to help you learn, heal, grow, and evolve. All right, every now and then I like to talk to the platinum members of the TOB Patron program. If you're not familiar with what that is patron.theoverwhelmedbrain.com. That's where I have extra episodes that you've never heard. I do some group trainings and other things like that, so check it out if you're interested in that. But today I had a call with someone that gave me some really, really great feedback on what to cover on the show, and also asked me a question regarding judgment that I wanted to share with you on the air today. So I did have an episode recently on judgment and how when you look at someone else and you judge them for something that they're doing or something that they are, like what they look like or where they come from, whenever you're judging outwardly, it's reflecting something that you're either struggling with inwardly or haven't healed from inside yourself. Whenever there's any type of external judgment of any kind, like she said her husband judges other people, and it offends her because she'll hear the words come out of his mouth and she's like, how can you look at someone and judge them? You don't even know them. You don't even know what their struggles are, what their history is, but he has these judgments inside of him. And what that is some negative energy inside of him being expressed outwardly. For example, you were neglected as a kid. Maybe your mom or dad neglected you. You didn't get enough love and support and nurturing that you definitely deserved and needed, but you didn't get it. So now you hold this thing inside of you, this feeling of lack and maybe anger and maybe sadness. And you're holding it with you as you go through life. And you haven't found a good way to express it or release it or heal from it. So you find ways to express yourself by judging others. Like, why doesn't that bum get a job? You might say something like that about someone. And what's happening is that you're accessing what it is inside of you that causes you to be upset in some way, shape, or form about someone else. It's not even about them. They're reminding you of a trigger inside of you. You see something they're doing, you hear something they're doing, and it triggers something inside of you that's already there. So the question that comes to mind is, what is it inside of you that causes you to judge someone else? That's one of the first questions. Is it, what's inside of me that's causing me to judge someone else? Well, that person just should go to work. They should find work. I'm just using that as an example. That might be a judgment that you might put on someone else. Why don't you just go to work? Why don't you just make money? Make something of yourself. Do something in this world. And I ask you to turn that around and go inside of yourself and go, okay, why does it concern me so much that I want this person to make something of himself or get a job or whatever it is? What is it in me that's causing me to feel that way? Well, he's always borrowing money from me. Let's just use that as an example. All right, so he's borrowing money from you. How does that make you feel? Well, I get angry. I don't want to give him money. Okay, why do you get angry? I get angry because I'm sick of hearing from him. Okay, so if you're sick of hearing from him, why don't you tell him to stop? Well, I want to be nice. I don't want to be seen as a bad person, or whatever your reasoning is. And as you drill into this and figure out what this judgment is all about inside of you, you find out that it's really not about them at all. It's something that you're holding on to, something that you haven't healed from, or something that you need to do for yourself that you haven't done yet, or can't do, or choose not to do. There's something in you that is being withheld or repressed or something else because it's coming out in the form of a judgment towards someone else. And that's not necessarily a healthy way to heal inside. In fact, judging others is a great way to avoid healing inside yourself. I'm going to focus all my energy on you so that I don't have to deal with my own personal boundary issues, or I don't have to deal with my inability to enforce boundaries in my life. It's a lot easier for me to just tell you what you're doing wrong so that I don't have to face what I need to heal in me. I don't have to face my own vulnerabilities. I don't have to face my own insecurities. Because why would I want to do that when it's so much easier to point the finger? And I think that's important to know. That's something I learned in my marriage as it was ending, is that when my marriage was ending, we were separated, and I had time to think to myself, with no other influence in my life, staying at home alone and thinking about what I can do inside of me to be a better person for her. Like, I want to save this marriage. What can I do inside of me to make me a better person for her? And a question came up in my mind is, well, what do I do right now to make her feel bad? And my answer was, well, she definitely doesn't like when I judge her. She definitely doesn't like when I don't like the things that she does that trigger me. At the time, she had not an eating disorder, but she ate food emotionally to cover up pain or sadness or other things that were going on in her life. And she ate a lot of junk food, a lot of sugar. And it really triggered me. And I didn't know what to do with that energy inside of me that was triggering me, that negative energy that was building up. And I kept getting triggered. And I really had to think about what was going on, because I kept pointing the finger saying, you need to change, instead of pointing the finger at me going, how can I change to better my life? And that's really when judgment turns around, is that when you have this judgment towards someone else, I want you to ask the question, what can I do to better my life? Or an even deeper question, where does this negative energy of judgment towards someone else come from inside of me? Notice how that shifts the focus and puts your attention on something that might need healing in you, and probably does need healing in you, because if you're the type of person that judges outwardly, you likely have something inside that needs to be addressed or resolved or released in some way. Now, this isn't in every example, because you can be adamantly judging someone because you have a deep-rooted value as well. And that may not necessarily need healing, but it may need nurturing. So there's another angle to it, is that you may have strong opinions about what the leader of your country is doing right now. You may have strong opinions on that. That's when you can look inward and go, okay, what values are being violated? If it's not something that I need healing in myself, maybe it's a value in me that isn't being fulfilled in some way. And maybe I need to do something about that. Maybe I need to nurture something inside of me, or actively do something about the values that I believe in so that the energy just doesn't build up and explode whenever I get triggered. So that's where I believe that most judgment comes from, is you're accessing something that either needs healing, addressing, releasing, processing inside of you, or some deep-seated, deep-rooted value that is being violated or unfulfilled in some way. And no matter what the case, what do you think is more helpful? To continue to point the finger outside of you to people that you have no control over, or to point the finger back and go, what do I need to work on in myself to create a better life for me and those I love? Because that's an entirely night and day perspective. You're going to have a very hard life if you're always pointing the finger outside of you going, it's their fault, they're the bad person, they need to do something differently, instead of pointing the finger inward and going, what can I do differently? What do I need to do for myself? When my marriage was ending, that was my question, is since I can't control her behavior, what can I do for me to make my life better and her life better? And the answer that came out to me was, stop judging her. And I was like, yeah, but how? I get triggered. I don't want her to do what she's doing. How do I stop doing that? The adult inside of me stepped in. You know, the difference between the inner child that you're carrying around, the one who gets afraid, the one who has a lot of fun, that child that's still inside of you that I tell you to nurture and keep safe and protect. That's like protecting your boundaries, is protecting that inner child. That's inside of you. But you also have this adult inside of you that takes over and says, hey, I got this. Don't worry, I'll take care of everything. This adult steps in. And that's what happened to me. This adult stepped in and said, if you have a problem with her behavior, which you'll never be able to control, then why are you still here exposing yourself to the problem? And that question, or something like it, shifted my perception. It shifted my perspective. And I was able to look at the situation as going, wait, so what you're saying is, I don't like the relationship the way it is. I don't like her behavior the way it is, but it's my fault for staying in the relationship the way it is because I can't control the outcome. Or something like that. And my adult said, yes, that's it. And I went, oh, so if I don't like it, I should leave. Yeah. And then I said, yeah, but I don't want to leave. I want this relationship to work out. And then the adult part of me said, then you'll have to accept her for who she is and what she's going through, and let her deal with her own problems and you deal with your own problems. And I went, whoa, I don't think I've ever done that. I don't think I've ever just chosen to accept and release my attempt to control her behavior. I'd never done that. So I had a shift inside of me and said, so in order to be happier in this relationship, the only person I can control, the only person that I have any sort of say about with their behavior is myself. And my adult said, yes, you're getting it. So I'm like, okay, that changes everything. It was right at that moment I said, so I need to accept her behavior. I need to accept that she is who she is, and she will never, ever change. It doesn't mean it's true. It just means I need to accept that if I want to stay in this relationship, and if she never changed, can I be okay with that? And it took me a few minutes to come to that place where I could answer and go, yes, I want this relationship bad enough where I can accept that. And I had to be genuine, and I had to have follow through. Because if I accept that, there's a lot of things attached to that. There's a lot of scenarios or situations that are going to come up where I'm going to be exposed to behavior that used to trigger me. Am I still going to get triggered? Or if I do, what am I going to do about it? And I had to make a promise to myself. If I get triggered, I need to deal with it. I need to do it in me, and will not put the focus or bad juju energy toward her, because this is really all about me and my triggers. And from that point on, I didn't judge her. I stopped judging that behavior and focused on me. And every time I felt triggered, I would work on it in myself. And what was revealed by that was something inside of me that I didn't know I didn't want to face. I didn't know that I didn't want to face these triggers because I just thought if the world changed around me, then I don't have to deal with my own problems. It's a lot easier to look at the world going, the world's at fault for my unhappiness. And if the world changed around me, I would be happy. But when you suddenly take responsibility for everything that's going on inside of you, you now have to face yourself and go, okay, now I have to explore this. And I was telling one of my coaching clients this yesterday, where I was like, what would happen if everyone in the world died but you? And, that's kind of an odd thing to think about. But if you're used to judging others, you're used to looking outside of yourself for your happiness, for your fulfillment, for everything, and you're used to finding that in other people, what would happen if everyone died and now you had to take care of yourself and only you? That's going to shift your perspective, and you have no choice but to look inward and go, wow, everything that's going on inside me is about me. Everything that I think about other people, which are no longer here, is about me. It has to be, because now there's nobody here, and if there's anything inside of me about someone else, but that someone else isn't here to take the brunt of my judgment, how does that change how I think? How does that change how I feel? There's no quick and fast solution, but if you use that as a meditation, you might come up with something inside of you that maybe does need to heal, maybe does need to be addressed. That is, if you're a judgmental person like I used to be in my marriage. And you might discover something that you didn't know about yourself if you do something like that. And with this patron member, what she was asking is, how do I deal with my husband's judgments towards other people? He doesn't judge me, but I get upset when he judges other people. And I said, what you need to do when someone else is judging other people and it upsets you is act fascinated and curious about their judgment, in the sense that you ask them questions instead of react. So if your husband or your wife or your boyfriend or girlfriend says, I can't stand that race of people. Everyone in that race are robbers, stealers, liars, and cheaters. He or she blanket statements a race of people. Instead of going, oh, I can't believe what I just heard. How can you say that about every single one of those people? Instead of doing that, just say, wow, what makes you say that? They'll give you an answer. You see it on the news all the time, and statistically speaking, you see it. And then you can ask, well, wow, why are you so mad about that? And be genuinely curious. It's like you're fascinated by their thought process instead of offended by what they said. Yeah, but you sound upset. Why are you so upset about it? Because I pay a lot for my insurance or, something. Because I want to keep my house unlocked at night, and then one of those people are going to break in. And using your own curiosity, you can go, okay, what would it feel like if I thought my house was going to get broken into? I would be like, I'd be kind of paranoid. I'd be kind of scared. And I might ask a question, so you're scared that someone from that race is going to break into your house? And then they go, yes, I'm always scared of something like that. And I could go on. And what you're doing is you're drilling down into where these judgments are coming from. And they will almost always reveal where it comes from. As you talk to them more and more curiously, giving them a safe place to express, even if you disagree with what they're saying, just giving them that safe zone, they're eventually going to say something along the lines of an origin of where it came from. Like, well, when I was young, my mom was robbed 6 times by people in that race. I just don't trust them. And then you could even ask further. It's like, wow, how did that make you feel when your mom told you about that? Or maybe they'll say, I was with my mom 3 of those times. And how did that make you feel when you were with your mom? And on and on and on. And you'll find an origin that lit the fire inside of them to hold these judgments. It doesn't mean they're bad people. People who have these strong judgments about others doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that they have a lot of energy inside of them that they've been holding on to and maybe don't know what to do with. And then they generalize things like, everyone in this race is like this, and everyone who's homeless is too lazy to work, and everyone is this and everyone that. They make these generalizations that aren't true, at least not for all of them. Some of them maybe, but they're almost justifying what they feel inside. So the idea is just to be curious when someone you're with is judgmental of others, instead of just going, don't say that, that's awful, because that usually fuels their fire. Well, I know it's true, so there's nothing you can say to convince me otherwise, because that kind of conversation never goes anywhere. Rarely. So anyway, that's what I want to talk about regarding judgment. Thank you for the Patreon member that asked that question. That's a great topic to talk about, because we all have these little judgments about everything, even toward ourselves. So that's just something to think about. Hope that helps. We'll be right back with Ask Paul right after this. So every now and then I have Asha with getoutofthemess.com on the show. She is a representative for Legal Shield, and she's joining us today. So Asha, welcome back. Why don't you tell us what this service is all about and how it can benefit people?
You can think of it as legal insurance. Let's put it that way. In several states, that's exactly how it's sold, as legal insurance. In fact, in Massachusetts, there are rules around that. And the reason why it's set up that way is because it's both a proactive way of being able to call and ask questions anytime you want, and it costs you $20 a month. You call, you ask as many questions as you want. Or if you get in trouble, like you get pulled over, you have some kind of issue, and you need an attorney, you call the emergency number, and they pick up immediately, and they're there to help you. So it also gives you discounts if you have to have representation because somebody filed a claim against you, whatever else. You have some kind of legal problem. So that's why they call it legal insurance.
I'd like to add that actually I use this service too, and one of the most common things I use it for is every now and then I'll have legal questions about what I do, my coaching, and what are my legal responsibilities, what are my legal liabilities. And it's important for me as a business owner to understand exactly what I'm getting into sometimes, and just having like a hotline to call to be able to get these answers. I mean, especially as a business owner. I don't know if you've ever paid an attorney, but $250 an hour, it's out of a lot of people's budget. So to have someone for a low monthly rate, I think it's like another $10 or $20 for businesses. But even that is just mind-blowing when it comes to what you would normally pay per hour. So Asha, why don't you tell us how they can find out more about this and how they can get a hold of you if they have any more questions.
Okay, so for more information, just go to getoutofthemess.com, or you can reach me on my mobile at 678-355-8777. You can text that number or call, and I will get back with you as soon as I can.
All right, welcome back. This is Ask Paul. This is where I read a listener email on the air and do my best to help them through a challenge or two. Today's email comes from someone I'm going to call Jill. Jill says, "Hi, Paul. I'm a pretty new listener to your podcast, and I've gone back and listened to many of your old podcast episodes, which have been very helpful to me. One topic I've been struggling with is how to move past the feelings of guilt from something in my past. I got divorced several years ago. I initiated the divorce. My ex wanted to work things out, but I did not. I had been feeling that I wanted out for years before going through with it because we had a child and I was afraid of being judged for being divorced. I still feel extreme guilt for hurting him, and it almost brings me to tears when I think about it, specifically the day he moved out of our home. I consider myself a highly sensitive person, and taking actions that I know would cause another person pain is something I generally avoid. I was in therapy before and during the divorce, or else I think I probably wouldn't have gone through it. I have now moved on and I'm remarried. but my ex has not been in any relationships that I know of. I know ending it was the best for both of us, but I think my guilt is impacting my life negatively, and I may be sabotaging my marriage because I don't feel like I deserve happiness after what I did. Since our divorce, I have matured, and we were married young, and I have worked toward living an authentic life. I have realized a lot about myself, as well as recognizing that I was pretty terrible to him at times during the relationship. I feel like I should try to heal myself without involving him, either by apologizing or telling him what I've realized. After all this time, bringing up pain just to help myself heal seems very selfish. We do have a child together, so there is some contact, but it is all business. Any coaching you could provide on these topics would be helpful. Thank you. All right, Jill, this is an excellent question, and I want to help you out with it because this one of the worst things to carry around is guilt. And I've talked about guilt on this show before. When I brought my cats to the Humane Society when I was in my 20s, I felt so guilty only years later when I realized how awful it is to just get rid of animals because I was selfish and I didn't want to take care of them. And I had to go through some healing there. And there's other things that have happened. Like I felt really guilty for when I was married, treating my wife the way I treated her, because she didn't deserve to be treated the way I was treating her. She did not deserve to be judged and what I now term as emotional manipulation, which is something I did during our marriage. But there's a couple things or several things that I want you to look at when it comes to something that you feel guilty about today. And the first thing is somebody or something is usually the target of our lesson in guilt. And it usually has to happen to somebody or something. I hate to say this because now we're looking at it going, oh, so somebody has to be the victim to something that we need to learn about ourselves. More times than not, that is the case, yes. My wife had to be the victim of my selfish, manipulative, judgmental behavior in order for me to learn about that selfish, judgmental, manipulative behavior and heal from it. My cats had to be the victim of my selfish, immature, very limited perspective of life back then. They were the victim for me to learn my lesson and have that guilt rise up in me because of that. This is something that's actually hard to tell you, that there are people that are going to be the victim in your life. There are people, animals, what else is there? Other life forms, ants that get under your feet when you're walking. I don't know, whatever you feel guilty about, that are going to be the victim for you to learn a lesson. I'm not saying that to make you feel better, because it doesn't. It does not make me feel better knowing that someone had to suffer at my hands in order for me to learn about it. Yet, if someone didn't suffer at my hands, I wouldn't have learned about it. And that gave me an opportunity to learn, heal, grow, and evolve. So there's a lesson that you can take with you, knowing that somebody had to do it. It was almost like we all need someone to play a role in order for us to learn things sometimes. It's a little controversial, I realize, and it's something that I really don't want to accept myself. I don't want to accept that someone has to be my victim in order for me to learn my lesson. I'm hoping that I can learn all these lessons before I hurt someone else or cause damage or do worse. I want to learn these lessons. That's what personal growth and evolution is all about. We evolve ourselves so that we learn lessons before we cause harm to others, and we're always trying to better ourselves so that we don't put our dysfunction onto others, and hopefully that's what we can continue doing until the day we die. So there's the first angle about guilt, is that I don't think there's a way to avoid someone being a victim in this thing that we create. And then when we learn what we had to learn, that helps us not create more victims for any type of accident, mistake, dysfunction that happens later on for other people. We don't want other people to play the victim. So it's almost like someone took the brunt of something that we regret. Somebody took the brunt of that so that we didn't spread that out into the world to other people. So there's my first thought when it comes to guilt, is that, okay, someone had to do it. It had to be done. I'm not saying this is 100% true. I'm saying that it had to happen in order for you to get past where you were at the time. My wife had to get depressed and lose her passion for life before we separated, before we divorced, and before I could ever learn my lesson. Because if she stayed in that relationship with me, then the relationship would have gone more and more downhill until one of us was smart enough to either get therapy, me, or leave the relationship, her, or something. Something had to happen. Because if it didn't happen, then it would have gotten worse and worse and worse. So it is highly likely that if you stayed in that relationship with him, if nothing happened, it would have gotten a lot worse. So yes, someone had to play the victim to something that we regret doing or saying. And then when the guilt comes up for that, it might be too late to do anything about it. So let's talk about that second aspect, that second angle to guilt. What do you do with the feeling of guilt after you do something you regret, or after you think about what you did and then the feelings of regret come up? Because guilt really accompanies regret, and regret accompanies guilt typically. Oh, I regret treating my wife like that. Why did I treat her like that? Okay, so the first question in your mind should be, what can I do about it? Because you have to answer that question first. What can I do about this? If you feel bad about what you did to someone else, is that person still around? Can you still talk with them? Jill, in your case, yes, he's still around, and you still talk with him because you share a child together. So one of your questions was, should I bring up this pain and talk about this with him and, I don't know, apologize or tell him what I realized? My answer to that, I won't say what you should do, but if I were in your shoes and my current marriage was suffering, which is going to build up guilt in your current marriage, by the way, then I would talk to him. I would apologize. I would say what's on your mind. He may not want to hear it. He may not care, or he may be deeply impacted by what you have to say. But yes, if he was the victim of your learning lesson, then apologize to the victim of your learning lesson. I'm not saying it was your fault. It takes two to create a relationship. And even though he may have been a victim, and I hate to use that word, but we're going to use it just because it's easier to say and it's sometimes appropriate and sometimes not. But in this case, we'll just say, okay, he was the victim to something that you needed to learn in yourself, something that you may have regretted the way you were. In your email, you said you were very young when you got married. So you didn't have all these life lessons under your belt, and you may have acted immature. You may have done stupid things. That's a great way to start. You know what? When we got married, I did a lot of stupid things, and I want to apologize, and I'm sorry. Yes, it's going to bring up pain in you, but there's a difference between the pain you're holding on to now, which is this low-level, underlying, always there, affecting your current important relationship. There's a difference between that and the amount of pain that you're going to feel, which is going to be great, bringing this up again, but it's going to reach a precipice and then it's going to drop and you'll be able to finally start the healing process. You might not be able to heal until you raise this level of pain enough to get it out of your system. So if I were in your shoes, I would be like, I am so sorry for what I did, what we went through, how I was, and this is the important part, for my role in the relationship. I take responsibility for what I did in the relationship. Because you're not going to take the blame for all the problems in the relationship because you were both involved with that. If you did something bad or stupid and he stuck around, he is partially responsible for the problems in the relationship. I'm not saying he's to blame. I'm not saying he's responsible for your bad behavior, but he stuck around. He stuck with you. Now, there may be many reasons he did that. Oh, we have a kid. We have commitments. We have bills together. We have a house together. I'm sure there's a lot of reasons, but he still made the choice to stay. So it was his responsibility to take care of himself, too. He has a responsibility for himself. Just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean that you are now one person together, making decisions together, and you both take responsibility for each other's bad behavior together. That's not how it works. A relationship works where I bring the best version of me into the relationship. My partner brings in the best version of themselves into the relationship. Then we go forward together, making choices together, but still being responsible for ourselves and doing the best we can for our partner. And sometimes we are not ready to do the best we can. We don't have enough resources or life experience to do the best there is. We're doing the best we can, but we don't always have all the resources there are. So we do the best we can. And that's all we can do. And sometimes that creates a problem in the relationship because the best we can do isn't the best there is, if that makes sense. But I want you to remember that you both have a responsibility for yourselves. Your responsibility, especially now, is for you. He may be hurt, but he has just as much responsibility for himself to go, you know what, when we were married, you were pretty evil, and you did a lot of stupid things, and I'm really mad at you for that. Or he might even say, I hate you for that. I can't believe you did that. I mean, if he has that stuff inside of him, that's something he may want to express to you, but is choosing not to. So don't take the brunt of all the relationship problems on yourself, because you are both 50-50 in this relationship. There's always an equal level of responsibility, even when one person's behavior is the cause of many problems. If the other person sticks around after they know what the problems are, they are choosing to do it. And the truth is, that could be the lesson they needed to learn so that they didn't get into another relationship with someone like you. I hate to say that, but I can look at my ex-wife and go, she's never going to pick someone that is as judgmental as I was when we were in that relationship. Hey, there's my gift to you. I'm not saying it's a gift necessarily, but it is. I mean, if you think about it that way, what you did for him was a gift. If he chooses not to get into another relationship because he's using an excuse in his own mind that, all women are bad or all women will cause me pain, that's not your fault. That's something he's carrying with him that he carried with him into your relationship with him. And that could be something from childhood. That could be some sort of pain or dysfunction or something that he's carrying with him that he needs to heal in himself. So, yes, it's possible that however you behaved in the relationship exacerbated and brought up some childhood stuff for him, and now he's responding to the world as this scared little boy or angry little boy or whatever it is. But that's not your fault. That's not your fault at all. Your responsibility was how you behaved, not how he responded. That's it. So that's the second angle, is focusing on your role in the relationship. So if you're going to talk to him and apologize, if you want, you can say, I'm so sorry for the way I acted. I was dumb. I realize this. I feel bad about it, and I'm just expressing it to you. I don't expect you to say I forgive you. I'm not looking for that. If you are looking for that, then maybe you shouldn't apologize. You shouldn't really look for forgiveness, because really this is more about you releasing this from yourself. You putting it on the table and saying, hey, this is yours if you want it. My apology is here, and it's yours if you want it. And then don't wait for the forgiveness part. Just say, this is what I felt, and this is what I wanted to share with you. You may hate me for this, and I understand if you do, but I just wanted to say this because I feel I need to say this to you. And if he says, I don't care, you put me through hell, then you go, I understand, and I accept my role in the relationship. That's all you have to say. And then you move on. And then you've said your thing. Because at that point you can say, well, I did what I could. And that's all you can do. I did what I could. So that second angle is important. And let me give you now a third angle. I don't know, maybe it's a component, or I don't know if it's an angle, a step, a component. But let's just say that you still feel guilty. Let's just say that you did this thing. You talked to him, or you sent him a letter, or whatever. I don't know precisely what you want to do or what you want to talk about, but that's just my opinion on how I would approach it. If I still felt guilty about how I treated my wife, I would certainly go in that direction. I'll probably just contact her and say, hey, you know what? XYZ, this is how I feel, and I apologize. Which I've already done a long time ago, actually. So this is pretty close to what I did, is that when we were finally getting divorced, I did end up sending her an email. And I've talked about that on other shows, how I rewrote it, and then finally rewrote it again and said, you know what? I take responsibility. Everything I did in the relationship, I assume responsibility for, and I'm so sorry I put you through it. And it was great. I felt some closure there in myself, because that's what you're trying to achieve, closure in yourself. So you can move on. And once you get that closure out, it's their choice to receive it and heal and receive closure in themselves. All right, let's go to the third angle, which is about guilt, which is replacing guilt. Now, this is something I thought about after I healed from the guilt of leaving my cats at the Humane Society, because I felt really bad. And it wasn't until years later until I was able to start processing what was going on inside of me, because I just started, I don't know, crying, feeling bad, going, oh my God, I can't believe I did that to my cats. They were two wonderful cats, and I just let them there to die. I never found out if they were adopted. I just brought them there. And years later, I thought about it. I go, oh my God, how could I do that? So I thought, what can I do today? Let's just say that they did die. So now I have this pain and I have this guilt. What can I do today that could not necessarily replace the guilt, but what is opposite of what I did? And this is how I want you to look at it. What is the opposite of what I did that I regret? When I look at it, I go, the opposite is to save a life, is to take care of animals to the best of my ability, to, do whatever I can in a positive way to ensure the good nature and happiness and health of other animals or other cats or something like that. That's what I came up with. And when I thought in that direction, suddenly I started feeling better. Not because of the thought, but because of the behavior that changed in me. For one, I started visiting those no-kill cat shelters where they have all the cats everywhere. And you're walking and there's just cats everywhere. And it was well taken care of. They were doing a great job there. And I wanted to visit there because, for one, when I was married, we found this cat that was in the snow. It was just hanging out, sleeping in the snow. Like nobody would go collect him and give him a home. And my wife's like, we got to take care of that cat. And I looked down, I'm like, oh my God, he's probably freezing. And so we picked him up and we went to this no-kill shelter, giant house of cats. And we brought him there. And I think it cost us some money because they had to give him shots and they found out he had leukemia. And it was really sad. And the cat was a mess. And he was really sickly looking. But we brought him to this shelter because we wanted to save him from the winter. This was when we lived in Texas. So we brought him there, and a few weeks went by, and we got the newsletter from this place, and we saw that cat in their newsletter as a featured cat. And they had cleaned him up so nicely. And he was, eating right, and he was feeling better. And I tell you what, he looked like a different cat. He looked gorgeous and he looked happy. They really took care of him. And even now my eyes well up thinking about this, because it just made me feel so good to be able to save this cat's life, to be a contributor to his health and his happiness, and to get that letter and go, oh my God, I can't believe this. This is exactly what I wanted to do. This is exactly the opposite of who I used to be, how I used to behave. This is you putting your energy towards something that is the opposite of something that you did that you regret. And that's what I did. I put my energy towards that. And not only that, when my wife was always pro saving animals, and whenever she could, she would absolutely collect that animal and put it in a box. They always came to her. They never came to me, but they always found her. And I think that's just how it works. When you put your heart and your energy towards wanting to help other people, other animals, they just seem to appear. So animals would appear in her life. And so, I would certainly help. We'd get a box, and then we'd either bring them to the vet or take care of them till they were better, and do what we could. So when she saw that cat, that's what we did. And I knew that her cause, that always wanting to save animals, was important to her. So I ended up getting her a birthday present, which was a donation to that cat shelter. And she said it was one of the best birthday presents she's ever received. That I was actually giving to something that she cared about, and that was something important to her. And I felt good about it too, because we brought that cat that was very sickly and almost probably dying, and for him to be nurtured back to health and then eventually go to a good home, which I think he did, was just, it just touched my heart. And of course, when we had a dog, I took care of him better than any other animal I've ever taken care of, because that was my promise to myself. That was my commitment to myself. Any animal that came into my life, whatever I felt bad about doing to other animals in my life, I would just do the opposite and put all my focus and energy into the extreme opposite. So that's my third angle, is that you do the opposite of what you feel regret about, and you put energy in that extreme. Like when after I got divorced, I made a commitment to myself that I would not judge or manipulate in my next relationship. And I've stuck to that, I think. I think I stuck to that. But whenever it comes up, whenever I think about, oh, wait, I'm starting to manipulate here, I'll catch myself, and I'll just speak honestly. I will tell my girlfriend a truth that I may not have wanted to speak about in my marriage. I will say what's on my mind. And I've chosen to, treat my girlfriend in a wonderful, supporting way, even when I disagree with things that she does. And that was one thing I couldn't or didn't want to do in my marriage, is support my wife in her behavior when I disagreed with it. That's hard. That's hard to do, to support someone in someone's behavior when you disagree with it. But if you love them, you're going to support them and trust that they're going to learn what they need to learn, if they need to learn it, in their own way. And that's what I do with my girlfriend. It's like, if I see something dangerous, like life-threatening, I'm going to say, no, you shouldn't do that, and here's why. But, I give her as much freedom as I possibly can, because I know that she's an individual and she can make her own choices, and she chooses to be with me, which I consider an honor. So I look at this relationship almost completely opposite as I look at my past relationship. I take the learnings from that relationship and I apply the opposite of what I was doing that caused regret in me into my current relationship, into the things I do today. And it makes a world of difference. And let me just share with you the fourth and final angle to all this, is that what are you doing to your current relationship? Now, I don't mean to make you feel bad about that, but if you were to apply that third angle, if you were to look at that third angle and go, well, if I were to get rid of this guilt, maybe I should do those first two things. And then the third thing is, what can I do in my current relationship that is the opposite of what I was doing in the other relationship? What is the opposite? What is the positive to that negative? Because that's going to help you heal. It has to, because now your focus is on someone else. It's more compassionate. It's more about them. Because right now it's about you and your pain. I feel so guilty. I feel so much regret. I feel hurt that I hurt him, your ex. So take those other perspectives that I talked about, apply them, do something, because you need closure. You need to get beyond this. And what I just talked about today is a path to that closure. I mean, this reminds me of a client I was talking to. He was holding on to guilt. And what happens when you hold on to guilt is that all of your behavior, everything you do and say, has a foundation of pain and guilt under it. And no matter how big of a fake smile you put on your face, it's going to be sensed. The closest people in your life, including your children, are going to sense it. So you may appear to be coming across happy or enjoying yourself or enjoying them, but there's that underlayer that keeps coming up. So it's vital that you find closure. And I'm giving you permission to close that portion of your life off. If you want to say something to your ex, say it. Get it out of your system. It doesn't matter if he forgives you or not. It really doesn't. You just need to get it out of your system so that you can say, you know what? I tried. I told him I was sorry, or I told him I had these realizations and I screwed up. If he wants to forgive me or not, it doesn't matter. But at least I've done my part. You've accepted your role in the relationship, and now you're completing your role in that relationship. It's done. It's over. And then you put your focus and your energy into your current relationship or into your kids or whatever, because there's no reason for the suffering to continue for anyone. Now you can move on. You have my permission. You can move on. In fact, it's so important that you move on from this, because if you don't, it won't be healthy for anyone. And your ex can also choose to move on or not. And he can make that choice. And maybe all he needs to make that choice is some sort of closure. Maybe what you say to him is something that will cause him to think about his own life and go, you know, it's time to move on from that. Or, like I said before, maybe he's not even thinking about it. Maybe it's water under the bridge. Who knows? But you may never know. He may never share that with you, and he may not want to. He may not like you. If that's the case, that's fine. At least he won't end up with someone like you the way you were back then. And that, believe it or not, is a gift. Those are the weird life lessons that we receive throughout the years that we hate going through. We call them miserable failures, and then our life gets better because we learn from those miserable failures. So yes, it was a miserable time in that relationship, probably for both of you, and now you can move on with those lessons and find some closure, because there's no reason to continue with the guilt. Yes, I still feel bad about some of the stuff I did in my past, but I don't have to hold on to the guilt, because when I feel bad, I just transform that bad into something good I can do for someone or something else, if that makes sense. I turn it around. I put my energy towards something good I can do, because that's all you can do sometimes. Sometimes the things you feel guilty about, you don't have access to anymore. Someone died, someone in your life that you feel guilty about something you did died maybe. And geez, what do you do then? That's when you focus on the now and ask yourself, what can I do now for someone else that is opposite of what I did then, or what I feel guilty about, something I regret. So there's my 4 angles of guilt, or the 4-step process out of it, or something. I hope you got something from that. Thank you so much, Jill. Thanks for writing, and we'll be right back after this. Thank you for listening to another episode of The Overwhelmed Brain. I want to thank you if you've purchased the book, The Overwhelmed Brain, Personal Growth for Critical Thinkers. You could listen to, 160, 70, probably 180 episodes that I have out there right now, and try to connect all the dots and put all the pieces together and figure out how to get yourself to a very empowering place so that you can make the decisions that are right for you. You can do that. You can listen to individual episodes, or you can buy the book where I condense it all and walk you through it, A to Z. How to get a better life, how to get into better relationships, how to avoid toxic people. It's all in there. Look for the book on Amazon or at your local bookseller. I know Barnes & Noble has it, and online retailers have it. Find it today. You'll love it. And I want to thank Asha with getoutofthemess.com. This is a great service. It's something that I utilize, and I can't imagine anyone not wanting it, quite honestly, because anything that comes up, I can just call and ask a legal question. I can have a phone call made. I can have a letter quote from my attorney, and have anything done that I need, all for that low monthly rate. So give her a call at 678-355-8777 or visit getoutofthemess.com today. And I want to thank the patron members. If you're part of the TOB patron program, I appreciate you. Thank you for your contribution. And of course, if you want to join the patron program, it's not all about just sending money this way, because I give you private episodes, I give you worksheets, and if you're in the platinum level, you get the group training, which one is coming up a couple weeks, and it's going to be an Ask Anything. So if you want to join me, join the patron program, and I'd love to see you coming up on one of these Sundays where we're going to do that live. Looking forward to it. And whether you're a patron or not, thank you for using the Amazon link on theoverwhelmedbrain.com. The Amazon link is the easiest way to give back, so if you've been listening for months or years, or if you're listening in the far future on some old computer that uses tiny little optical discs, thank you for listening, and thank you for using the Amazon link, because your shopping habits are making a difference. Every purchase you make, a few pennies come our way to support the show and help create what you're hearing today. And finally, thank you to Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com for some of the music transitions in The Overwhelmed Brain. You know, we were talking about guilt today, and how guilt doesn't feel good, but it is a path to compassion. And because of that, because guilt can lead to compassion, I want you to be aware that guilt isn't necessarily bad. Guilt is more of a signal to do something different. Guilt is like saying, hey, remember that thing you did or that thing you said? What are you going to do now? I think that's a good way to look at it. So what are you going to do now? And then you do something. Because I don't think guilt is here to say, remember that thing you did or that thing you said? Yeah, I want you to do nothing about it and still feel bad every day so that the rest of your life is ruined. I don't think guilt is meant for that. Guilt is a signal. It's a signal to take action. Guilt is a great path to compassion. And that's what I want you to think of, is when you feel guilty, how can I be compassionate? Just ask yourself that question. I feel guilty about what? Now, how can I show compassion toward what? It's a good way to look at it. It may not resolve every single problem in your life, but it will be helpful when you are carrying around this stuff. We're not supposed to carry around this stuff. You know, our fight or flight response kicks in for a reason. Okay, so guilt could be a part of that system of fight or flight. And so fight or flight is looking for behavior. It's looking for action. It's sort of like anxiety. Anxiety kicks in because it wants you to do something. It wants you to take action, even if that's run from the room. It kicks in because it wants you to do something, not let it fester. You don't want guilt to fester. That eats away at you, and the people around you, they feel it, they sense it, even if you don't show it. It festers not only in you, but it spreads, and it's viral, and it's dangerous. So it's important that you do something about it. And I love the idea of, when I feel guilt, how can I be compassionate? Try that on. And especially, when I feel guilt for something specifically that I did, how can I do something specific in the opposite way? In an opposite energetic direction. If it was bad energy before and I did this specific thing, like and I'm going to make something up, I kicked a dog once. Let's just say that that's what you feel guilty about. I kicked a dog and he yelped, and I felt guilty about that ever since. What can I do that's opposite of that? I'll pet a dog. Well, that might not make me feel less guilty. But what if I saved a dog? What if I donated to someone who, a shelter for dogs? Or let's just, talk about us, human beings. Let's just say that you said something terrible to someone you love or someone you don't love, but you still feel bad that you said something terrible. What can you say that's kind to someone else? Maybe surprise them. What can you do there? Or maybe you can talk to this person that you said something terrible about and apologize, or say, you know what? Wow, I was a real a-hole back then. And I know you probably don't forgive me and you probably hate me, but I just want to tell you that I am truly sorry that I did it. I am truly sorry that I said that. Or whatever you feel like is really important for you to say there. And don't look for I accept your apology. Once you do that, it's not that you're off the hook, but you are letting them know that you are taking responsibility for what happened. Great. And then they may still be upset with you, or they may never forgive you, but that's okay. They deserve it. They've earned that. They've earned that right to keep it and hold on to it. Let's hope they don't, though, because that affects them when they hold on to it. If you feel anger towards someone and you know they feel guilty, or you don't know they feel guilty, or whatever, holding on to this anger, holding on to this, hatred or negativity of any sort, it does eat away at you. You know what happens to your teeth when you drink a lot of soda, right? The bacteria eats away at the sugar that's on your teeth, which eats away at your teeth, or something like that. Forgive me, I'm not a dentist or a biologist, but I think that's how it works. And then you get cavities, and that would be like never brushing your teeth. You're holding on to something that's eating away from you. So think of showing compassion as brushing your teeth. Think of apologizing to people, even if they don't accept it, as brushing your teeth. Getting rid of the enamel-eating bacteria. Oh, this is really going south. I'm not going to use these analogies anymore. So let's just end it there by opening your mind and stepping into your power. And I want you to be firm in your decisions and actions so that you can create the life you want. Always take steps to grow and evolve. You are powerful beyond measure. And above all, and this is something I absolutely know to be true about you, you are amazing.